Alright guys, welcome back to video number 2 in the overpowered open world build series. The build that we'll be talking about today, as you can tell from the gameplay video that I have here, is the Quickbrand. This is, in my opinion, the single most powerful open world build in the game. No questions about it. This build has the most carry potential while also bringing the most DPS for the open world. A lot of the questions I had on the first video were about, well, how does this LE build looks great at meta events, but how does it handle soloing? And I think the answer is it handles soloing and roaming quite well. But this Firebrand build is even better. It's a great solo build, and it's also insanely OP at these meta events. It's quite easy to not only be buffing your squad humongously through boons like quickness and fury, but also Aegis, but also comes with the ability to have very respectable DPS. You will often find yourself the top DPS person in your squad at meta events when you use this build. So I think that every meta event would benefit with more people running this, it's just simply great. You can keep perma fury on 5 people, perma quickness, and you do very respectable DPS, and really that is super great, and the Aegises are just a nice bonus. But anyway, guys, that is the overview of this amazing build, and we will get into discussing the particulars pretty soon. Alright, so the Quickbrand, what is it and what does it do? Clearly it is a Guardian build using the Firebrand Elite spec. We'll talk about gear first. Quite simply, you're going to use full Vipers with Firebrand rune. Vipers in every slot with Firebrand rune. Now you might say, well, this is the exact same as the raid build, except you're using Firebrand rune rather than Renegade rune, and you'd be absolutely correct. The reason is that the Firebrand rune brings significantly greater support capability in terms of quickness uptime at the cost of a little bit of DPS. The DPS that you will lose is trivial in comparison to the DPS you'll gain and that you'll add to the rest of the squad by being able to pump out a huge amount of quickness. So that's why Firebrand rune is just better for open world. So again, Vipers in every slot with Firebrand runes. Now for your weapons, you're going to want an axe and a torch, and your axe will have Sigil of Smoldering, torch Sigil of Bursting, and then a scepter with Sigil of Smoldering on swap. Incidentally, the scepter on swap is what really kind of makes this a great all-around build for the people that are into solo roaming. Any sort of challenging situation you find yourself in, you always have the ability to swap to this really powerful ranged weapon. So don't forget about that. If you really want to super min-max to get to exactly 100% burn duration, you would probably want to use Spiteful Infusions, and 8 exactly will get you where you are maxed out. But don't feel that you have to run infusions to do well with this build. It's perfectly fine to run it without infusions, and you will be fine. So let's talk about the traits really quick. We're going to go with Virtues, Radiance, and Firebrand. So in Virtues, we take Unscathed Contender, really because there's not really a great option in this slot. Unscathed Contender is a physical damage increase that has nothing to do with Condi, and we're not going to always have great Aegis uptime, but it's just considered an added bonus. Next, we will take Glacial Heart. Glacial Heart will give you a slight DPS increase. That is pretty good. So be sure to use Glacial Heart. And then the Grandmaster will be Permeating Wrath. And Permeating Wrath is where this build will go crazy in DPS at any meta event or any event you do where you cleave multiple adds at the same time. Normally, the Guardian burns are single target. However, in this case, it makes Permeating Wrath an AoE. It triggers every 3 attacks. So if you're cleaving 3 enemies, you will trigger it immediately. And it will be an AoE, and it will burn all 3. So the burns get completely out of hand when you are doing huge cleave damage. Single target situations, not super good. I mean, you still get the passive proc more often, but it really shines at events like Serpent's Ire, or like the Thunderhead Keep meta, or the Death Branded Shatterer, where you're cleaving lots of adds and your damage can go crazy. Next we have Radiance. We take Right Hand Strength to get that sweet crit chance boost. We take Radiant Fire, which is going to give us a lot more uses of our torch and passive burns from the torch. And then the Grandmaster's Amplified Wrath, which in a build that is mostly burning damage, you can imagine that making your burns 15% more hard hitting is pretty good. Then in Firebrand, we're going to take Liberator's Vow. Allies gain quickness when you use your heal skill. So every time we activate our heal skill, and since it's an ammo skill, we can use it a couple times for free, we're going to pump out some quickness. Then we have Stalwart Speed. When you grant Aegis or Stability, you also grant quickness. So here's the thing. When you activate your heal skill, you are giving Aegis. So not only is your heal skill giving quickness from Liberator's Vow, it's also giving quickness from Stalwart Speed. So your heal skill becomes like this really sick quickness generator. Granted, the Stalwart Speed is on a 7-second cooldown, so you don't want to just blow it out with the heal skill. You want to wait every 7 seconds to use this, but it is helpful for upkeep. And then the Grandmaster's Lore Master. Tomes gain reduced recharge, which is fine, but not super amazing. But what's really fun is that you retain your Virtue passives when they're on cooldown. So remember, in Virtues, we're taking Permeating Wrath, which is a massive boost to the passive burns. Well, Lore Master allows you to keep those passive burns even when you activate the Tome of Justice. So that is super sick. It means we can get full use of our amazing Tome of Justice skills and also continue to have the passives. So then what are our utility skills? We're going to take, obviously, the Mantra Heal, the Burning Mantra for extra damage, the Quickness Mantra for more team quickness, the Condi Signet to increase your condition damage, and then Feel My Wrath, which is a huge boost. So the optional slot here is the Mantra of Flame. Mantra of Flame is a really nice DPS increase. However, don't feel married to it. If you think you're in a situation where your team needs a lot more stability, then be my guest to take Stand Your Ground. Completely acceptable, completely reasonable. If you need more Aegis, feel free to take Retreat. There's a lot of times where you might want to bring another skill in that slot, but for the most part, I pretty much keep Mantra of Flame on there, and you're good to go. So that is the gear, and that is the traits. Next up, I will talk about a little bit of gameplay stuff. If you want, you can go to the Snowcrow's website or one of the other elite raid guilds and check out how they show the Firebrand rotation. I'm not going to get into a full rotation, but I will tell you just a couple of basics and stuff that might be a little bit simplified so that you can do your open world stuff without focusing on it to the detriment of tunnel vision. So stick around. Okay, so the basic sort of gameplay thing to keep in mind is managing your mantra cooldowns. When the fight starts, you want to pop Feel My Wrath, and then you're going to want to use Mantra of Potence and Mantra of Flame until they have 1 charge. You always want to leave 1 charge, because if they go on full cooldown, you're screwed. So use those down to 1 charge, and then use 1 hit of your Mantra of Solace. Mantra of Solace, remember, you're waiting on that trait that has a 7-second internal cooldown, so you don't want to just spam this out, spam 2 uses out of this at the start of the fight. You want to go, like, Mantra of Solace, Feel My Wrath, then Mantra of Potence, Mantra of Flame, and then a few seconds later, like 7 seconds later, use Mantra of Solace again. But that's your utility usage. Basically, the way I would mentally do it if I were you is make sure Feel My Wrath is always on cooldown, make sure Mantra of Potence is always on 1 charge, make sure Mantra of Flame is always on 1 charge, and make sure Mantra of Solace is always on 2 charges. That way you have 1 emergency use that you can use for the Aegis and the heal without putting it on full cooldown. And that will in most situations give you and your team 100% quickness uptime. Now, as far as DPS goes, anytime Zealot's Flame is off cooldown, you want to activate it. Zealot's Flame is instant cast, so it won't interrupt what you're doing to activate. So you want to always make sure Zealot's Flame is activated. It will do the burns, and it won't interrupt what you're doing. Now, when to use Tome of Justice? You want to use Tome of Justice every time it's off cooldown. So managing your rotation essentially is you want to stack. Obviously, stacking symbols is a good way to do DPS. So let's say you are at the start of the fight. You would want to activate Zealot's Flame, drop your Symbol of Vengeance, swap to your Scepter, drop the Scepter symbol, and then go into Tome of Justice. That way you have both of your Scepters down, and then you can go into Tome of Justice. Or you have both of your symbols down, and then you go into Tome of Justice. While you're in Tome of Justice, it's a very simple skill order. You do Chapter 2, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, Chapter 1, and Chapter 2. So 2, 4, 5, 1, 2. And that is it for Tome of Justice. You go 2, 4, 5, 1, 2. Very simple. And then you're back on Scepter. When you're back on Scepter, you put another symbol down, and then as soon as your weapon swap comes back, you go back to Axe, and then the first thing you want to do is put your Scepter down. And then you just auto-attack on Axe, and you can repeat that until your Tome of Justice is about to come up. Hey look, Tome of Justice has 3 seconds. Axe 2, swap to Scepter. Scepter 2, back into Tome of Justice. 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, back to Scepter, back to Scepter symbol, swap back to Axe, Axe symbol, and then auto attack on Axe until this is up. And so then you're also at the same time you're managing your cooldowns. Yes, this is a more complicated build to play than the Condi Ellie, for sure. This is a step up in difficulty. The Condi Ellie, you essentially use all your skills on cooldown, and you don't have to worry about a weapon swap. It's a lot easier. The upside to this is it's more rewarding. This build will do more DPS than the Ellie by a good bit, and it will boost your team more because it's putting out quickness. Might is relatively easy to get. The Ellie, you never want to be in a situation where you don't have Might. That's really bad. Might is going from 0 Might to 25 is a humongous boost. It's ginormous. It's bigger than quickness. But going from 20 Might to 25 isn't a huge jump compared to going from no quickness to having quickness, if that makes sense. So this build, again, more complicated to play, but in the end, this is a very powerful build, and very, very rewarding once you've gotten the hang of it and you're able to really set things up and make sure that your DPS is on point and make sure that you're keeping up perma-quickness on your crew and yourself, and you're not only doing top DPS in the squad, but you're also buffing the rest of the squad in a huge way thanks to Fury and a little bit of Might from the Scepter, the Aegis spam, and the quickness. So yeah, that is it for the Firebrand build. Highly recommend you run it. The last thing I wanted to touch on before we go is the food. So super important that you use food. This build is very reliant on food, actually. The best in slot food is bowl of fire meat chili. However, there is a level 70 version that is a little bit cheaper. I think at the time of this video, these are 23 silver each. That's a little bit expensive. There is a level 70 version that's 12% burning duration and 60 precision. If that's more budget for you, go for it. That's the way to go. Toxic focusing crystals are your best in slot utility nourishment for damage. These are going to boost your damage output more than any other option. If you're in a group with, let's say you're in a squad with completely unknown players and you're pretty sure they're just random pugs that aren't very skilled, toxic focusing crystals are the way to go, because this build without toxic focusing crystals can keep up perma-quickness. So you don't need anything else besides the Firebrand rune to keep up perma-quickness on yourself, even without alacrity. It's designed to keep perma-quickness on yourself, even without alacrity. If you feel that you are above average in the squad that you're in, I would run toxic focusing crystals. However, if you're in an organized group and you have 5 or more good players and you're the only source of quickness, you might want a little bit more boon duration, especially if you're in a group of 10 people and they're all good players that you're sure are going to do good, and you're the only source of quickness. If you have to keep quickness up on 10 people, I'm sorry to tell you, you're not going to be able to do it on perma on all 10, but a little bit of toxic maintenance oil will go a long way towards increasing your quickness uptime in bigger groups. So those are your options. If you're on a super budget, I believe you can run the peppermint oil, and that would give you, I think, a little bit of boon duration, but not a super ton. But honestly, I don't run the toxic maintenance oil very often, because especially when I'm in the open world playing this build, I'm going to want to run focusing crystals, just because I know that I will have perma quickness regardless, and my DPS is pretty good regardless. And usually at most I have 2 or 3 friends with me, and I can keep up perma quickness on them just fine. But if I was ever in a situation where I had like 7 friends with me and I was the only guy making quickness, that's when I would pop the toxic maintenance oils. So anyway, guys, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope it encouraged some of you to gear this build up and bring it out to some of these meta events and start giving people quickness. It feels great to have quickness at meta events. It feels great to have get quickness from people in the open world, and you should definitely do it. Thank you guys for watching. Any comments, leave them below. See you next time.